Welcome to America's Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for market intel, forecasts, and strategies. Hello, I'm Michael Bull. Thank you for being with us. This show today is brought to you by CREISummit.com. Check it out. This is an incredible summit, commercial real estate influencers. It's September 11th to September 13th, and it's in Atlanta, and I'll be there. You can come see us. It's for anyone who's involved in commercial real estate, and you can learn more at CREISummit.com. Well, today we're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about digital and social media tools for commercial real estate properties, for developments, for brokers, for any service provider. You know, I get a lot of questions because of this show from time to time about what I do there. And it's interesting, when I first started with social media, even my brokers say, "What are you fooling around with that for?" You know, it's like, you don't need to do that, right? And I said, well, I think my brokerage business is half marketing and half advisory. And I've always enjoyed learning both and learning more about it. So I got into it early on, and it's been fun. Well, you're going to enjoy this show. Please welcome my guest. It's Ken Ashley. Ken is executive director with Cushman & Wakefield, and his practice is based on office and industrial tenant representation. Ken, good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Good to be back, Michael.
Well, good. We're calling the show Digital and Social Media Tools. And I think one of the things that is really interesting is, I think you think about that for young people promoting themselves, but in commercial real estate, there's a lot of developments and buildings that have really benefited from social media and digital tools. So how can a development or an existing property use it to have some personality and have some benefits for its tenants?
Sure. Well, first of all, we have digital tools that are the most powerful in human history, and many of them are free if we'll just learn how to use them. And the analogy I always use is, I'm not a great cook. If I walk into a kitchen, you're probably going to get Pop-Tarts. But if a chef walks into a kitchen, same gear, same food, you're going to get a gourmet meal. And so that's what we're focused on, is figuring out how to create the gourmet meal, how to really tell the story. So to your question about people who own real estate, I think there's definitely an opportunity to differentiate. We're in early times in terms of the ability to storytell. And I think it begins early. So if you're thinking about an acquisition, when you're in your due diligence, trying to understand the themes and the stories, if you're going to build something new, then going and talking to the community and helping them become part of the story. Because at the end of the day, what a decision maker is trying to do, you're trying to get lease up, you're trying to get traction, you're trying to get people to come and stay in your development. And what they care about, I call it trying on the blue jeans. They want to project themselves into your development. And depending on whether what kind of office you are today, many times it's less about the space and more about the place. And we place make by telling stories.
It's interesting. And Avalon is a really good example of a really good use of social media, right? Even from the beginning when they were developing.
Yeah, that's very true. Our mutual friend, Mark Turo and North American Properties, developed that, and they did a lot right. They did meet with the community. I know Mark and his team traveled all over the United States and looked at similarly situated developments so they could see what they liked and what they didn't like, and then incorporate that. They had a lot of exciting videos before about what was going to happen, so you could try on those blue jeans. And then they did some really smart things that seem tactical. But if you go to their website, it says experienceavalon.com. So there's the call to action in the website. If you go to their X handle, it says Avalon Insider. So I feel like I'm part of the community just by typing in the X handle. And then even to this very day, they have a calendar of events. So you can celebrate Father's Day, Mother's Day, all the things that you might imagine, July 4th. But then they have pop-up events, and that keeps it interesting and exciting. So they made a space, a place, and they created a community.
Yeah, and that's a great mixed-use development. A lot I know my listeners are familiar with it around the country, and they get some really high rents and occupancy in the hotel and in the multifamily, and of course in the retail and things there. But a lot of people, a lot of companies are interested in getting their employees back in the office and trying to get an experience level even in office buildings and properties. How might an office building use social media and digital tools to help there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are a few ways. First of all, we can certainly storytell about the building itself. So if we're trying it on, if we're either a prospect or we're an employee that's thinking of coming to work at that company, what is that going to look like? What are the amenities? What are the things that we want to highlight? We want to tell, it's part of business. We want to tell the best side of the story. But I think the second thing is to tell the stories of the people that are in the asset. So the companies that are there, it's always interesting to me to go more than just a directory, but to have a nice summary of who are my neighbors going to be? What do they do for a living? And then Napoleon said one time, I've discovered the most amazing thing, a man will die for a nod. And what he meant by that is recognition is very powerful. So let's say we have employees who are running a triathlon or having some incredible business success, highlighting them and telling the story and recognizing them does two things. One, it makes them feel good and included. But as human beings, we like to see others recognized. And when you do those kind of things, you soften the edge of the building, you make it more attractive. And we say to employers that you've got to earn the commute. And if I know I'm coming into a fun community, that helps me.
Yeah. And should build large enough buildings to do this? I guess it has to be fairly large to make sense, right? Should they have a calendar? What else should they do?
Well, I think probably consulting with some of the great marketing folks that are out there to help you develop the right solution, because we're in sort of broad strokes. Yes, you should have a calendar. Yes, you should have some pop-up events. But what should you do if your building is 120,000 feet versus 1 million? I mean, there's a lot of subtleties in that, in storytelling. But in short, the more variety that you have, the more excitement you have, the better. And please, if you own a building, tell people in advance, because there's nothing worse than paying for the holiday barbecue and no one comes because they only learned about it the day before. Give people some time to calendar this and give them a reason to come.
And remind them often.
And remind them, indeed.
What about companies, service providers? If you're an architect or a brokerage firm, what are some ideas to use social media tools there?
Well, I think as we give personalities to buildings, we can also give personalities to companies and certain perspectives. So when I say we're across the street from UPS, I say that word, you have a certain brand image in mind based on the way that they have chosen to operate. We're in the same town as Delta Airlines, same sort of thing. And they have entire teams of people that are giving personalities to their brand. So if I were running an architecture firm or I were a service provider, I would try to think about what story I could tell to get people interested in my company. And it can be, it doesn't have to be pounding my chest and we're great at what we do. It could be, here's a project we worked on and here's how we overcame some difficulties. Man on the street, just think differently about how to talk about your company. You could look at what your competitors are doing and tell maybe a different story.
Yeah. In a minute, I'm going to share with you guys why Ken know so much about this topic, and you're going to like to hear that. But before we go on, I think for mixed use developments and retail, understand, there's Twitter, there's TikTok, and there's Instagram and all that. But we think about on the business side, if you're running a service building, a service business rather, I think one of the platforms we think about is LinkedIn, right? You have some tips for users of LinkedIn versus kind of the other outlets?
I do. First of all of the platforms are expecting TikTok to go away. And so they're quickly moving towards prioritizing video content. And you are the master at that, of doing video content. So short, to the point video content is helpful. Number two, if you're going to do posts, keep them short and to the point with a few bullet points and tell a story. And then number three is consistency. So whatever you think you need to do, just make sure that your audience knows every Monday or every other Monday or whatever it's going to be for you that you post. And then finally, in LinkedIn, a lot of executives are there. Be careful of spam. And so overposting is a problem I see a lot in LinkedIn. And then make sure that there's a call to action in your post and some way for people to reach you. You might think that it's pretty obvious if someone wants to find you and you run an architecture firm that they could. Make it easy.
Yeah, I like that. That's a pet peeve of mine. Sometimes I look at a company, I go to their website, I go to their social, and it's like, I don't really see a phone number.
Right.
I don't even see an email. Maybe the website has a form, you fill it out and they ignore it. It's like, Yeah, if you go to any of my websites, my phone number's there, my email's there. Please get in touch with me. Well, now I'm going to go into one of the reasons you have a lot of experience in that, and that is CREI. And the summit you've been doing. How many years you've been doing this, and tell us a little bit about it and who should come.
Okay, sure. So it started in COVID, in the beginning of COVID, and what I realized is that there had been a list, which we sort of took over, of people who were interesting in just what is now known as X. And so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was a lot of work to curate that list. But you fast forward to today, we now publish 7 different lists of people
social media influencers in commercial real estate.
Exactly. Social media in commercial real estate. So those are the barriers. The 7th list I'm excited about is we're going to come out with a podcast list. I know this show will be high on that list of things that are interesting to people in commercial real estate. So CREI stands for Commercial Real Estate Influencer, and the I is lowercase because sometimes there can be a sort of negative connotation to influence. That's not what we want. It means servant leadership. It means that we're trying to influence for good. We're trying to influence your success blesses others. We want you to be successful so your family can be successful, so your company can be successful. And so it's about finding a way to speak clearly through the clutter of this world that we live in.
How many years have you been doing this now?
So this is the 4th year of hosting the summit. And to answer your question of who should come to the summit, commercial real estate service providers, people that support those, like marketing companies that are focused. And then I think some principals. We're going to have Jim Irwin of New City. We're going to have Mark Toro of Toro Development there, who are going to share some of what we talked about at the top of this podcast, some really interesting men who are doing innovative and leading things. So if you own an asset and you want to come and see, that would be interesting. And then last thing, Michael, sometimes senior brokers will say to me, "Can't I send my team?" And my response is, you can, but the conductor of the orchestra doesn't play the violin, but he needs to know the part. Maybe you ought to come too.
I like that. It's like sometimes my agents will say, "Well, Michael, how do I do this? Look up this in this little system." And I'm like, "Well, I've had people working for me doing that, since I was 19.
Right.
So I know what I want out of it, but you're gonna have to have someone else how to do it." So your point, I should know how to do it.
Right.
So tell me about some of the speakers and some of the sessions. And this is going to be September 11th to September 13th in Atlanta. And really anyone can come,
correct.
Right? And there's instead a great hotel, right?
Yeah, so it's a good point. So it's an open invitation. Sometimes people say, "Can I come?" Yes, if you're in commercial real estate, you can absolutely come. We would love to have you. It's a micro conference, 150, 200 people. Jim Irwin and his team have built Fourth, which is a brand new hotel. In fact, I think it opens this week. It's a boutique hotel with 154 rooms. Will be the first major event there. If you know Atlanta, it's on the Beltline, which is arguably the coolest part of our city. So that's going to be great. The learning format is this. First of all, we're brokers, a lot of us, so we start with social and end with social. We'll have dinners on both ends. And then Thursday is a general session where you can kind of plan. You can come up with your strategic plan for your project or your social media, what you're trying to accomplish. We're going to go all the way through a number of breakouts. Importantly, we're going to record every breakout. That's a request we've had. And there's a way that we can tell you about when we're together where you can get access to all of that information. A couple of highlights. Dr. J.J. Peterson is going to be there. He and his partner created a book called On Building Your Story Brand, and it transformed the way I think about marketing. And to summarize it, as a broker, I used to think I was Luke Skywalker. That's not true. The client is Luke Skywalker, and I'm Yoda, which actually probably fits.
Yeah, but you're a really powerful Yoda. And now if you like to attend, you can check it out and get more information at CREISummit.com, and you can get a 10% discount, a promo code MichaelBull10. Well, what would you leave our audience with, Ken, to think about for digital and social media tools and commercial real estate?
Well, I think less is more or less. The quickest way to be boring is to tell someone everything. So if you can think about whatever your marketing message is and really get rid of everything that doesn't need to be there, dissect it. And then secondly, ask your existing clients what resonates with them about your messaging. So it's not a mystery. You can simply ask people what gets them interested and excited, and what doesn't get them interested and excited. I always say feedback is a gift. It truly is. So be prepared to hear the real messaging from someone. We're in the South, so it's hard to get people to tell you what they really think. But if you can get to that, that's where you need to be.
Yeah. And if they say something bad about you, then right after that, they say, bless their hearts.
How's your mom and them?
That's right. Ken, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate
Thank you,
it,
Michael.
buddy.
This is awesome.
Good information. And thanks for joining us around the country. Hey, if you can come to CREI, I'll be there. Say hello. And like Ken said, there's a way, if you're attending, to actually get recordings of everything, so you can go back and share it with your team, or maybe with your boss. Thanks for sharing the show. Please connect with us. If I can help you with anything, you have any questions for me, I have a very easy email. It's michael@bullrealty.com. Well, thanks. Until next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show. America's Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by CCIM C5 Summit. We'll be at the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida, September 17th to 19th. Visit c5summit.realestate. By CREI Summit. This will be in Atlanta, Georgia, September 11th to the 13th, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, where we're headquartered. Visit cresummit.com. By Bull Realty, commercial real estate sales, leasing, and advisory services. Visit bullrealty.com or reach out to me directly. My email is michael@bullrealty.com. By Commercial Agent Success Strategies, 21 cloud-accessed agent training videos. Learn more at commercialagentsuccess.com. You're invited to subscribe to the show wherever you listen or watch the show. You're also invited to subscribe to a weekly email announcing the show topic and guests at creshow.com. Thank you for watching, listening, and sharing America's Commercial Real Estate Show.